Well, austerity is a great device for shattering the economy, dismantling the welfare state, and increasing class power, weakening the labor movement, and so on. So it's a good policy for that. In that sense, it'll work. It is a disaster for the economy. What's happened in England is a good example, and it's not a surprise. In fact, right in the middle of these austerity programs, the International Monetary Fund came out with a study reviewing, I think, maybe a couple hundred cases of efforts to impose austerity during stagnation and recession, and they'll almost always have the same effect. It makes the crisis worse. It makes it harder to pay off debt. What's needed is to stimulate growth. And I think by now Europe's finally beginning to recognize that to an extent. The ECB is taking some steps to try to deal with what's plainly the core problem, lack of demand, which requires intervention. The U.S. has a somewhat better record than Europe in this respect. That's why there's a very slow, virtually stagnant, but slow growth in the United States, while there's continued decline in Europe. The stimulus, there was a small stimulus in the U.S. It had to be kept small because there's a lot of business and other opposition to it, and the Republicans are totally against it. But there was a small stimulus. It actually amounted to about zero. The stimulus was approximately identical to the reduction in state and local spending. So essentially it was flat. Nevertheless, it saved a couple million jobs. It should be expanded and renewed, but the political system, which is in the hands primarily of financial institutions, just won't permit it. And it's not a political party anymore. The Republicans used to be a political party. They're now some other kind of organization which acts in a lockstep uniformity with a catechism and has only two policies. One is to block anything that the Democrats try to implement, just try to block it. And the other is to serve the interests of the extreme wealth and corporate power with actually abject servitude. Of course, you can't get votes that way, so therefore they've had to mobilize sectors of the population which have always been there but have rarely been politically organized before. The Christian right, which is enormous in the United States, an extremely religious country, nativists who are afraid of everything, they want to make sure they have their guns and so on, and other not very palatable sectors. So that's their voting base. That's why you had what you saw in the Republican primaries, which were kind of a scandal to the world. But it follows almost automatically when one political organization undertakes policies which can't possibly get any public support. There's nothing to do but try to get support that way. But given that kind of dual policy, block anything that the Democrats try to do and serve the rich in the corporate sector, it's very hard to get a stimulus through. I mean, I think it could be done, but it would require that Obama use the power of the presidency, what's called the bully pulpit, try to mobilize popular support, and he's been totally unwilling to do that on any issue. So there is a small stimulus. The Federal Reserve has taken small acts to try to stimulate the economy, which have been successful insofar as they've been carried out, but are much too limited. And in Europe, it's the other way. It's been mostly austerity, which just drives the economy down.